Morning, everyone. It is 9 o'clock. We are preparing to start the hearings for today. This is a examiner hearings for Tuesday, March 19th, 2024, and here in council chambers in the city of Cape Coral. Before the hearings actually start, before the first hearing starts, I want to do a little bit of an introduction to our process. Our process is a little bit different than what is followed in other jurisdictions. In the city of Cape Coral, what happens is the clerk will read the introduction of the case, and then the clerk will swear at anyone who is testifying, and then city staff will testify regarding compliance with public notice. Assuming the public notice has been found, the hearing goes forward. If it is not found, then we go another direction. Following the finding of public notice, the applicant will go first. In the rules of the city, the applicant is required to present an entire case. What that means is that the applicant is required to address all of the requirements that are set forth in the city code and also otherwise city ordinances, etc. Once the applicant has presented their case, the city staff goes second and does the same in terms of presenting a case. Following that, public comment is open. If you're here for public comment, please make your comments comprehensive, because once public comment is closed, it will not be reopened. Following the closure of public comment, the applicant responds to questions and makes any final comments. Staff does the same, and then the hearing is concluded. If you have a cell phone with you today, please either turn it off or silence it. If you need to have a conversation during the hearings on your cell phone, please take it outside the room if possible. If you wish to have private conversations, please understand that the microphones in this room are very sensitive and they tend to pick up any conversation. And once your conversation is recorded, if it is recorded, it becomes public record and open to anyone to listen to. So please be aware of that. If you have comments to make, please come to the microphone so we can properly record your testimony. No testimony will be accepted from your seat. All testimony must be under oath, and that is because in order to consider your testimony, it must be under oath. If you testify without being under oath, the hearing examiner is not permitted to consider your comments. Members of the public are requested to go to the podium, which is on my left. On your right, it has the same video and audio capability as the other podium, which is reserved for staff and the applicant. Anyone who provides testimony other than the applicant and staff is requested to fill out a public participation card so we can properly spell your name. If you choose to get a copy of the order or recommendation, as the case may be, please provide your email for that purpose. However, also please be aware that if your email is provided, it becomes public record and available and open to anyone who would like to know what your email address is. The way I handle some of these hearings is you have the ability to speak as long as you choose to speak today. I don't put a limit on that. But however, please be aware of the fact that if you hear something after public comment is closed that you don't agree with, there will not be a second opportunity for you to speak. So I do want to emphasize, if you are here to share your thoughts with me, please make sure your comments are comprehensive. I take public comment very seriously, if you're familiar with how I handle these cases, and I very carefully consider everyone's comments. And I say that because you're probably going to hear things today you don't agree with, and I would expect and hope that you give each other the same courtesy that I will be giving each of you in your testimony today. I would ask you, don't cheer, don't boo, don't clap, please. I will very seriously listen to everyone, but I expect everyone here to give the same courtesy to each other, as I said, that I will give to you. So with those preliminary comments, I'm going to turn it over to our highly capable clerks and ask her to begin the hearing. Thank you.
Case number VAC 23-000020. Address 5982 Southwest First Court. Applicant, Costamore LLC. A vacation of plat is requested by Costamore LLC for a property with single-family residential R1 zoning at 5982 Southwest First Court. This property had a single-family dwelling that was demolished in 2023. The site is at the dead end of a cul-de-sac and has frontage along the Caloosahatchee River. The owner requests vacating 2,325 square feet of street right-of-way and underlying easements and 393 square feet of platted easements lying in lots 34 and 35 in Block 205. These vacations will provide the owner with flexibility in constructing a new single-family dwelling on the site. The city will retain easements sufficient for maintaining a continuous perimeter easement around the expanded site. Conditions of approval include the owner, at owner's expense, relocating a stormwater inlet and drainage pipe to a new location in the right-of-way. This application meets city standards established for vacation request and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Staff recommends approval of the requested vacations with conditions. Any persons giving testimony today, if you are able, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. White. Do we have an applicant today? I didn't see anyone else raise their hand.
I haven't personally met the applicant. Is
Oh.
Mr. Costa?
There's a gentleman behind you. Thank you, sir.
Sir, at some point you'll be providing testimony. You may want to be sworn in at this time.
Well, we'll get there.
Okay, you got it.
I appreciate that.
At this point then, for the record, Patrick Carlton White, Senior Planner downstairs in DSD. I would like to acknowledge this case was duly advertised in accordance with city policy, including planting of a sign on the property, including pasting an ad in the news press, and notifying people via USPS mailing that are located within 500 feet of the subject property.
I will find the proper notice was given. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also like to request status of an expert witness based on prior testimony in these cases and my credentials downstairs in the clerk's office.
I will find you as an expert based upon your credentials which are on file with the city clerk and also based upon your prior testimony regarding issues similar to the issues in this vacation request. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. At this point, I will hold my presentation until the applicant has had a chance to speak.
Okay, you might want to take down, oh, you did, all right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Sir, would you come up, please? Thank you. And I don't believe he was sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good morning. Could you
Good
state your
morning.
name for the record, please?
Carlos Costa,
Okay, and your capacity today is?
the owner of the property.
I thought you might be. So this is your opportunity to tell me whatever it is you wish to tell me about the property, about your request, about your neighbor, or anything else relevant to this.
I think the explanation that was given and also the information that the city has is sufficient, and I really don't have anything to add.
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Couple questions. First, obviously you've had an opportunity to review the staff report, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am?
All right, so do you wish to incorporate that into your presentation this morning?
No. I do, I do. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, you get
First
the
time.
vote. You said no, you said yes. Which one
Yes.
is it? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mazurkowitz, for your expert assistance in the back of the room. And the reason I ask you that is, I know we're sort of being funny, but it's a serious reason. You were actually required to put on all the evidence, and if you choose to do that by saying, well, the staff report is my presentation, that's actually the question I asked you.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You don't have to apologize. So that's the first question. Do you agree with the conditions that were put forward in the staff report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What will happen to the property that is vacated? Because some of it, I think, is on your property, and some of it would be adjacent to your neighbor's property. How's that going to work?
It is only used for entering and leaving the property. Nothing will really change there, just the fact of where the setbacks would be for the home.
I understand that, but who's going to own, if the right-of-way is vacated, the land is owned by someone, who would it be owned by?
I would believe it would be me, correct?
I don't know that. I'm asking you. Mr. White's not allowed to assist you, Mr. White, thank you very much. If you wish to defer that answer until Mr. White does his presentation, that's fine.
That's what I will do.
Okay. Anything else you'd care to say at this time?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. right. Mr. White, you're up. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. I have a short presentation and I hope it'll answer all of your questions.
I hope so too. Thank you.
All right, this case is VAC 2320. The owner of the subject property and the applicant of this case is Costamare LLC. They're requesting to vacate a little over 2,000 square feet, 2,300 square feet of right-of-way associated with Southwest First Court and a little under 400 square feet of platted easements located in lots 34 and 35, Block 205. Those properties that are affected by this are addressed as 5973 and 5982 Southwest First Court. Here is an aerial image depicting the applicant's property. That's the southernmost one. The other property that is impacted by this is immediately due north. We are located here in southeast Cape Coral. This is a zoning map depicting the properties as zoned R1. This is an aerial shot from courtesy of LIPA depicting the property as it existed in 2021 and 2022. I understand that since this house has been completely demoed and is no longer there, the petitioner owns one property that is 15,526 square feet. As I mentioned, it had a former single-family home on it. The owner is planning to build a new single-family dwelling. Based on the letter of intent, this vacation will improve safety and access to the new home. This area in red depicts the right-of-way vacation area. It is also Exhibit 1 of your packet. The Exhibit 2 and this drawing depict where we'll be vacating public utility easements. And Exhibit 3 depicts where we'll be reserving the vacation in order to maintain a 6-foot perimeter public utility easement around the vacation area. And as you can see, based on the way these were designed, this vacation area of the hammerhead will all be going to Mr. Costa and Costamare LLC. The petitioner has provided us information on the color of title to the parcel, correspondence from the utility providers, sketches and accompanying legal descriptions, and staff reviewed this in accordance with LDC 3.4.5.b and found the following with respect to item number 1. Staff found that the right-of-way is 50 feet wide. It's at the dead end of an existing cul-de-sac at what we commonly call a hammerhead. The vacation would not affect traffic nor restrict any vehicular movement. It will not prevent any emergency service access, and it is not envisioned that the right-of-way would provide a foreseeable benefit to the public. Easements within that right-of-way aren't needed. We will retain easements necessary for creating a 6-foot perimeter PUE around the site. As by condition, we'll be requiring that the applicant spend the money necessary to relocate an existing storm drainage inlet. Platted easements that are vacated aren't needed. As I mentioned, we'll be retaining the easement necessary for the perimeter easement. Regarding item 2, staff found that, again, no new easements are necessary. We will retain the easements that we need from the vacation area in order to maintain our 6-foot wide perimeter PUE. Regarding item 3, staff found that alternative routes to the property aren't necessary. A short segment of Southwest First Court is proposed to be vacated. This segment doesn't provide for through traffic. It only serves the Costamare side and the property to the north. The use of this cul-de-sac will be unaffected by the proposed vacation. Regarding item 4, staff found that the request would vacate about a 40-foot east of a cul-de-sac, the existing cul-de-sac, and that the vacation will not affect the function of said cul-de-sac. Regarding item 5, all 3 of the utility providers have provided us our letters of no objection. Staff also looked at this case with respect to the comprehensive plan and found compliance with policy 1.15 and 1.15a. If approved, the site grows by a little over 2,000 square feet, reducing the density in that immediate area. Basically, when we ran the calculation, we found an approximate density of 2.44 dwelling units, which is below the 4.4 allowed by the future land use classification. Staff is recommending approval with conditions, and I will read those for the record.
You've received no correspondence.
I've received no, I'm not aware of any correspondence that has been received. I and was not the original planner that reviewed this case, but was in communication with them as recently as last night, and I'm not aware of any written or phoned-in correspondence.
And I didn't receive anything from the prior planner as well, so thank you.
Thank you. All right, condition 1, the vacation of Southwest First Court right-of-way and the underlying easements adjacent to Lot 1, Block 203, Unit 3, Part 1, Cape Coral subdivision, and lots 34 and 35, Block 205, Unit 3, Part 1, Cape Coral subdivision shall be consistent with that shown on the sketch and the accompanying legal description prepared by Harris Jorgensen LLC, entitled Vacation of Right-of-Way and Any and All Underlying Easements in a Portion of Southwest First Court, Cape Coral, Unit 3, Part 1, dated October 13th, 2023, that appears in Exhibit A. 2, the vacation of the platted easements lying in lots 34 and 35, Block 205, Unit 3, Part 1, Cape Coral subdivision, shall be consistent with that shown in the sketch and accompanying legal description prepared by Harris Jorgensen LLC, entitled Vacation of a Portion of a Public Utility and Drainage Easement of Lot 34 and 35, Block 205, Cape Coral, Unit 3, Part 1, dated October 13th, 2023, that appears in Exhibit B. 3, the city shall retain the easement sufficient for maintaining a minimum 6-foot wide public utility and drainage easement coincident with the perimeter of the site involving lots 34 and 35 in Block 205, following the vacation as depicted in the sketch and accompanying legal description prepared by Harris Jorgensen LLC, entitled Public Utility and Drainage Easement at a Portion of Southwest First Court, Cape Coral, Unit 3, Part 1, dated October 4th, 2023, that appear in Exhibit C. 4, the vacated right-of-way will be private property and shall no longer be maintained by the city. All publicly maintained infrastructure must be removed and/or relocated to city right-of-way or public utility easement within 180 days of approval of the vacation request, as further described below. A, the owners of lots 34 and 35 shall remove the pavement associated with the vacated street that occupies their site. The area shall be sodded following the removal of this pavement or may be improved as permitted by the Land Development Code. The cost of these improvements shall be borne by the owner of lots 34 and 35.
If I can stop you there, Mr.
Paused.
White. It says the area shall be sodded. Is it possible to improve the property other than with sod?
Of course, that's what the latter part of the sentence means. So it should be at minimum sodded or may be improved in accordance with the Land Development Code for a driveway.
Could you give us just one example of what an alternative would be?
The one that I suspect the owner is most interested in pursuing will be a driveway. It'll be a hardscape surface.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Picking up at B, the owners of lots 34 and 35 shall obtain the necessary permits to relocate the existing stormwater inlet to the west of its current location to the city right-of-way and install the necessary pipe to connect inlet with the discharge point of the pipe into the Clusatchie River. At the sole discretion of the city, the owner shall grant all necessary easements for any new or modified stormwater system if required. All improvements shall be permitted and inspected by the city. The cost of the improvements identified in the condition shall be borne by the owner of lots 34 and 35. C, improvements described in condition 4A, 4B shall be completed within 180 days following the approval of the vacation. The owner may request a time extension that may be approved by the Public Works Director at the sole discretion of director. Factors that the director might consider shall include, but not be limited to, the time required to complete construction of a single-family dwelling on the site and the remaining time required to complete the said improvements. Question 5. In order to ensure that the vacation request complies with the city's duty to hold certain platted lands for trust in the public interest, the owners will make a one-time non-refundable contribution totaling a minimum of $2,800 into the city general tree fund. The city may use these funds to acquire and plant 2 black Avicennia germanes or red Rhizophora mangrove trees on property owned by the city of Cape Coral to enhance water quality or any other appropriate purposes in accordance with the City of Cape Coral Land Development Code. The general tree fund contribution must be completed prior to advertising the adoption of the resolution approving this vacation request. Number 6, the owners of lots 34 and 35 shall reimburse the City of Cape Coral the cost of recording this resolution with the Office of the Lee County Clerk of Court. And finally, the city shall record this resolution with the office of the Lee County Clerk of Court following the receipt of the recording fees from the owners of lots 34 and 35. I'll stand by for any questions that you have.
I have a question about condition number 5. Could you go back, please?
Sure.
Isn't there a little bit of a conundrum then? Because you're talking about the general tree fund must be completed prior to advertising the adoption. I'm assuming what you mean it to say prior to advertising the hearing to adopt? Or you mean literally the adoption?
I would think that the
Our assistant city attorney will leap in to assist if you would so desire.
sure.
I would think staff means prior to the hearing on the adoption of the resolution, correct, before city council?
That's what I believe. Yeah, the word hearing prior to adoption, I suppose, would be fine words to include there.
I understand. That creates another problem, which is what happens if it's not adopted and the owner has contributed $2,800.
We make a refund.
Okay. All right. I think maybe we
So
should.
where you say non-refundable, there is a limited exception in number 5?
I would have to say if the resolution wasn't passed, then yeah.
So there is one exception to the non-refundable in that condition. Okay, I just want that on the record.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Thank you,
what you
John.
said,
Good call.
Well, number 5 says non-refundable, so I just want it on the record. If it's not approved, that's the one limited exception to that condition.
Okay, and I apologize. Could you identify yourself?
John McCleary, Assistant City Attorney.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yeah, I just think we need to clean up the language in number 5. And I realize you inherited this case, so it's probably not your language.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, I have no other questions. All right, this is a public hearing. Are there members of the public who wish to provide input or testimony regarding this matter? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the applicant. Sir, could I have you up to the podium, please? Thank you. The language that I'm questioning in number 5 actually is more protective of you were it to be changed. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, if you don't, first it's ambiguous, when would you provide the money, which is obviously not, you don't like ambiguities when you're in this kind of a world, I wouldn't think. And secondly, you'd like your money back if the city says no. So, and obviously the city council has sole discretion. My job is only to recommend, but, we need to protect your funds. $2,800 is not an insignificant amount of money these days, or any days. Was there any testimony you wanted to give?
No, ma'am.
Do you agree with my proposed revision of that condition?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you understand what the revision would be?
I do.
Okay, fine. Any other testimony?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. White, anything else?
Nothing further, Madam Hearing Examiner. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. I will recommend this go forward as recommended by staff. It then goes to city council, and I'm sure, sir, you know that you're required to show up in front of city council. I'm sure you've been well briefed on how that process works, and I will be revising that number 5 condition along the lines of what was discussed right now. All right. So with those comments, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing and move on to the second hearing. Madam Clerk, thank you.
Case number PDP 23-000004, address 1020 Tropicana Parkway West, applicant Stonewater 2 LLC. The applicant requests amending a condition of the Stonewater Plan Development Project that requires a portion of the site to be developed with non-residential uses. The PDP amendment will allow up to 8.8 acres of land with frontage along Tropicana Parkway to be developed with multifamily or single-family attached units. Any persons giving testimony today, if you are able, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. Justin Heller, Senior Planner with the Cape Coral Planning Division. I just want to testify for the record that this case was noticed with signs placed on the property, mailings sent out to residents within 500 feet, and an ad run in the local newspaper.
Thank you. I will find the proper notice was given, Mr. Heller. Thank you. All right, Mr. Mazurkowitz, good morning, sir.
Morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. I apologize for my involvement in the previous case from the back row. I didn't think I said it quite that loud. Anyway.
All right, we always like our people that aren't accustomed to being here to be assisted. Thank you.
Joe Mazurk was president of BJM Consulting, here this morning on behalf of the owners and applicant for this PDP amendment. Madam Hearing Examiner, based on previous testimony in this venue, I will request to once again be recognized as an expert witness for today's hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mazurkowitz. I have considered your CV, which has been provided in previous hearings, and based upon that CV and based upon the testimony that you've given in prior hearings, I will find you as an expert regarding the subject matter regarding this PDP before us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. This morning, we bring to you an application that is a request to amend an existing PDP, eliminating this parcel from any of the existing PDP's requirement to include any specific percentage of non-residential construction and a prohibition of any freestanding residential. This is an undeveloped site located in northwest Cape Coral at the intersection of Tropicana Parkway and Nelson Road. The land use is CAC, Commercial Activity Center, and the zoning is NC, Neighborhood Commercial. We are not recommending or requesting any change in the land use and zoning. This request is solely for the movement of the boundary, if you will, of the existing PDP to allow this property to develop within the rules and regulations of its existing land use and existing zoning. This site is approximately 10.5 plus or minus acres with significant frontage on Tropicana Parkway and limited frontage at the intersection with Nelson Road. The site is serviced by all three utilities. The reason we are requesting this PDP amendment approval is for the following. The parcel configuration does not support any substantial non-resident development due to the lack of depth. This property is about 135 foot in depth along Tropicana and will not support good non-residential development. We are preparing the property to develop the site to allow the development of freestanding residential and on the majority of the property, and with a 1.6 plus or minus acres of non-residential at the corner of the intersection of Tropicana and Nelson Road. Our proposed development meets the requirements of both the existing land use and zoning. Our proposed development will provide the public health, safety, and welfare of the community by providing a housing product that is in high demand, and the existing supply of these units is extremely low within our community. Our proposed development is consistent with the public interest as it will develop 1.6 acres of non-residential in the area at the intersection of Tropicana and Nelson Road. I would like to at this time include the staff report and the recommendations within the staff report into our presentation. I also, on page 4, I would like to read into the record, page 4 of the staff report, the last paragraph of number 3, where staff says the requested PDP amendment will not cause the existing development plan to become legally non-conforming in any way. This amendment will not have a negative effect on the lawful existence of the Stonewater PDP. This criteria is met. Further, I would like to address, we were made aware of one letter from a residence of...
Mike and Chris Helm.
Yes.
I have it as well.
Okay. Their letter talks about the addition of 178 townhome-style dwellings. I want to make it clear, we are not proposing the development of any number of townhomes. We are preparing the property so it would allow the development of townhomes. We submitted a draft site plan with our application just showing what it could look like. We presently have nobody in line to develop this property. We presently have no plans that we're showing to anybody on this property, and the site plan that we did present with the application to give an example of what it could look like is not a limitation. It could, if the marketplace were to change and the site would become interesting to some non-residential development that would be able to exist on the narrow lots, like doctor offices, in that area, we wouldn't be opposed to doing that. We're only allowing this one additional use to be allowed on this property. We believe the reason specifically why we're using this application process is by eliminating the ability or eliminating the restrictions that are required within the existing PDP. we're allowing a greater flexibility of developing this site, which would allow the development of some single-family attached if that market is there, and we believe it is. We think that would be appropriate to develop along this site, but not knowing how many would be there, traffic situations, impact on roadways would have to be dealt with at the time of the site plan when the actual developer came in and proposed to build something in the site plan review process. So with that, we stand ready to answer any questions and look forward to addressing any issues raised by anyone during the public hearing process.
Thank you. Were you involved with the original PDP?
Excuse me?
Were you involved with the original PDP?
No, ma'am.
Okay, do you, if this were not to be granted, could this property still be developed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all my
Within
questions.
the same zoning and CAC land use and neighborhood commercial zoning that it has. The only difference is it wouldn't be allowed to do freestanding residential.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Mr. Heller, thank you.
Good morning again, Justin Heller, Senior Planner with the Cape Coral Planning Division. This is a PDP amendment at 1020 Tropicana Parkway West. The owner, Stonewater 2 LLC, is requesting to amend their PDP condition appearing in Ordinance 15-15 that requires the site to be developed with non-residential or compound uses. The site is currently undeveloped. It totals about 15.57 acres, and it's at the intersection of Tropicana Parkway and Nelson Road North. Has a future land use designation of Commercial Activity Center and zoning designation of Neighborhood Commercial. The surrounding area consists of Mariner High School to the west and single-family homes and vacant residential lots to the north, east, and south. So here's just a current aerial showing you the location of the property. Some background on the site: the Stonewater PDP contains a condition that says future development within the MR zoning district shall not contain freestanding residential uses. All future development shall be non-residential or compound uses as determined by Marketplace Residential District.
There's nothing on your slide. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I have it on the... The subject parcel is included in this future development area. The MR district, Marketplace Residential, was rezoned to Neighborhood Commercial District by the city in 2019. So this condition now applies to the project land with the NC zoning designation. The elimination of this condition from a portion of the site would allow up to 8.8 acres of the property to be developed with residential uses in accordance with the current neighborhood commercial zoning. So here's the sketch of the proposed area where they would like to have that condition amended to allow the site to be developed under the current NC zoning. Okay, so we analyzed this under section 3.4.8D. First standard, property that is controlled by the existing PDP consists of more than one parcel or tract of land, and this criteria is met. The PDP contains multiple parcels or tracts of land. Criteria 2, the party or parties making application for the amendment of the existing PDP holds title or ownership of 100% of the property. That would be included in the proposed amendment. And the applicant does own 100% of this property subject to the PDP amendment, so this criteria was met. Number 3, the proposed amendment would not negatively affect the lawful existence. Sorry, I got a little pop-up on my screen. Lawful existence of the existing PDP as it relates to the property that is controlled by the PDP development plan, and that would not be included in the proposed amendment. Staff finds the requested amendment will not cause the existing development plan to become legally non-conforming in any way. This amendment will not have a negative effect on the lawful existence of the Stonewater PDP, so this criteria is met as well. There you go. So we also looked at this in regards to our comprehensive plan policies. We find that this is consistent with policy 1.2 of the housing element. This amendment will allow residential development along Tropicana Parkway where marginal depth exists for commercial development. The amendment supports townhouse development and provides residents with more variety in housing options in this area. We find it consistent with policy 1.15 of the future land use element. The neighborhood commercial zoning of the site is consistent with the CAC future land use classification as shown in table 1 of policy 1.15. Policy 1.14 of the future land use element, these are our commercial sitting guidelines. We find 3 of the guidelines support the request to amend the condition. This includes a lack of adequate depth, compactness, and intrusion on adjacent residential. Staff finds that the portion of the site along Tropicana Parkway lacks adequate depth for quality commercial development, and the owner lacks the ability to assemble additional land for additional depth. So we also see that it will be less intrusive to nearby property owners to develop this portion of the site with residential development as opposed to...
And can you explain that sentence? Because I think that's an important point that you're making.
Which sentence? It will be less
It will
intrusive?
be less intrusive. Mhm.
Sure. Typically, commercial development directly adjacent to residential development is considered more intrusive.
In what way?
I guess more noise, more light pollution, more traffic during operating hours, as opposed to residential against residential.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't think I finished that. Okay, so suitable land will remain along Nelson Road for future commercial development. And this is important that even if they did decide to develop Tropicana in the future with residential, the city is making sure that the land adjacent to Nelson, which does have adequate depth in the future, will be developed with commercial uses. This area is farther from residences. There's a big lake in between, so it has additional buffering. And so that area is still reserved in the future for commercial uses. So we are recommending approval of the PDP amendment with conditions. As stated earlier, we got 1 letter of objection and a few phone calls for additional information. And I shall read you our conditions of approval. The first condition, all provisions and conditions contained in the Stonewater PDP as approved by Ordinance 15-15 and amended by Ordinance 38-17 shall remain in full force and effect except as otherwise stated in this development order. Failure to repeat a provision or condition shall not be interpreted as an intention to delete or alter such provision or condition.
Let me stop you there. Our Assistant City Attorney, Mr. Clario, do you believe that this first provision adequately addresses failure to repeat a provision? Is that adequate legally, in your opinion? Are you okay with it? Were it to be recommended, which I'm not saying it will, but if it were.
I think that it just clarifies the first sentence. I don't have an objection to it.
Okay, wanted to double check that. Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Donna
Heller.
Clarios is the city attorney.
Thank you, appreciate that. Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
Sure. Condition 2, Section 3 N.6 of Ordinance 15-15 shall be amended to eliminate the provision of freestanding residential uses on lands adjacent to Tropicana Parkway as legally described in Exhibit A. The site shall be developed consistent with the current neighborhood commercial zoning district, and I have that exhibit for you that I'll provide after the hearing. And lastly, future development on all of the land subject to this PDP amendment within 260 feet of Nelson Road North shall be developed with the non-residential uses. And that is all I have for you. At this time, I would like to incorporate my staff report as well into my presentation.
Thank you. I will do so. You've had an opportunity to look at the letter from Mike and Chris Helm, the one that you forwarded to me and to the applicant, and that I've already referenced. Do you have a comment regarding their opinion regarding, once again, their opinion, the added traffic and access points will significantly impact safety of the community members? Do you have an opinion about that?
I am not a traffic planner. Our transportation planner had a scheduling conflict and couldn't be here to testify on that. However, these are things that we do look at, but typically we look at them at the site development plan phase. Again, the plan provided by the applicant was just purely conceptual, just saying here's something we could build. Again, they could change it completely back to commercial if they wanted to in the future. It depends on whoever buys the property, how they want to develop it. Really, the condition is just to give them that option to move forward with residential development if the market, is going that way. So again, as far as traffic-related concerns at this time, that's not something that we've looked at, and we will look at it in the future when an application comes in for the development, and will require, a traffic impact statement and everything with that.
Well, I understand, and I clearly understand that zoning cannot control specific uses permitted by zoning. Obviously, that's textbook law, but this is the only opportunity the public will have. Were the city council to approve this, it then becomes administrative, and the public would not have access to further discussion on that matter. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions. All right, this is a public hearing. I have 2 requests to speak. I also have, as I've already has been mentioned several times, a letter from Mike and Chris Helm in opposition to the proposed change to the PDP, and I'm going to summarize it. I've already mentioned the added traffic and access points, and they also raised questions about adequate parking. Overflow parking is a great concern at this time, and it goes on to say they're in opposition to that change. I also have 2 requests to speak. If during public comment you have not signed up to speak and you decide you do want to speak, it's very simple. You just raise your hand, and the clerk will swear you in, and then you can come up to the podium and speak. So with those comments, I'm going to ask Mr. Rice, James Rice, do you wish to speak at this time? Come on up. And I believe you've been sworn in, sir, is that correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay, thank you.
Some of the issues have been addressed at this that I had.
Tilt the microphone down. I don't know that it's capturing what you have to say.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Some of the things that I had problems with were addressed by the planner. We had access to 2 separate maps that were shown with possible developments, and I was under the impression that they were actually planning to build these townhouses rather than just have the option of doing that later on. To me, this is going to significantly impact the traffic situation on both Tropicana and Nelson Road. Nelson Road is already quite busy, and from the number of police pullovers that we see, it's quite busy already. This is going to change that whole dynamic quite a bit. And my biggest problem was that I just bought my place less than a year ago, and we were asking questions about what are the plans for the area that was undeveloped in the Stonewater area. And we were told that there were no plans. But it's according to the dates on some of these documents, including the, what is it called, the pre-planning? It's the original document for this. It's handwritten, the number in it, so evidently that was before it had been assigned a number. and it's dated July 5th, 2022. And we were in 2023, we were discussing whether we were going to buy or not. And there was no notice that there was going to be a change in that. We thought it was going to be developed or zoned as strictly commercial, not as any residential. And I just want to say that I would object to it being changed to that.
Thank you, Mr. Rice, and I hope you enjoy living in Cape Coral. It's a beautiful area.
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
Glad to hear that. Thank you. All right, and the other person who signed up to speak, and I'm going to apologize in advance, I'm going to mangle your name, sir, is Jim Gemvand?
Close. Close. Jamund.
Jim Iden?
Jamund.
I would never have gotten that. Thank you.
You know, it's a German name, so it's difficult to pronounce. My wife says it's Scandinavian, but that's beside the point.
Well, thank you for correcting my pronunciation, and I'm not going to try again to pronounce it, so go ahead.
No worries. Well, thank you again for hearing not only Jim, myself, certainly the rest of us here from the community. We love our community, and D.R. Horton has done a really nice job in putting together a safe environment for us and beautiful homes. My concern, much to what Mr. Rice had mentioned, was we really weren't told that this would be changed or challenged, and having a group of townhouses, albeit optional for the builder that might take over this particular project, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's D.R. Horton on the back end. I wouldn't be surprised if, in fact, that is what they put in place. Now, to Jim's point, the commercial or the residential side with townhouses will produce a tremendous amount of traffic, as already stated. Mariner High School is just around the corner. We have a lot of inexperienced drivers that are coming out of there at key time frames. And those actual four-lane stops, I'm from Detroit, and boy, it's like Russian roulette. And when you drive up to those, it's like, who's first? Who's next? And increasing that volume, Jim's right. We see accidents on a daily basis. Increased volume will be just that much more intense. If the proposed 178 units, not that they're proposing those are the option, but if that were to be the case, you figure 4 people per unit times 2 cars per building or per unit, 24 buildings, you're looking at a tremendous amount of congestion. And I know Cape Coral's growing. Everybody wants to live here, right? It's still affordable. They're projecting 100,000 people over the next 10 years. We need commercial. And I don't look at a doctor's office as negative. We have a lot of senior citizens, I'm one of them, in our community. And having a local doctor's office, potentially dentist office that I could literally take my bicycle over to, that would be awesome. So I don't look at that as a negative. That would be low traffic for commercial. Wouldn't be maybe the commercial that is being projected here as being high volume for traffic purposes, but it would be a nice addition to our community. And then, we don't even know what kind of structures these are going to be. I heard townhouses, but what if they did low-income housing or some kind of an opportunity where our investments of $500,000 would be potentially challenged by the different economic culture that may grow into that particular community. So if we had known that, maybe we would have done a different negotiation on the price of our homes. And that would have been perfectly fine. Maybe I would have paid $50,000 less knowing that townhouses were going across the street. But I paid $50,000 more or $45,000 more to have that beautiful view and off the lake that I live, overlooking that space. So those are areas that I'm concerned, and I honestly don't trust their commitment to keep it optional as to it could be houses, it could be townhouses. I'm sure it'll be townhouses if that's what they've projected. And then this is, more to the environment. We're looking at eagles, ground owls. We've got red-tailed hawk. We've got beautiful sanctuary, actually zoned off in our community for that very reason, where a lot of that area, no doubt, I don't think birds know where we've zoned it. And so, they definitely may visit the area across the lake, and we get that beautiful view. And we just don't want that upset. My wife and I took a walk the other night, and boy, we heard coyotes, and not that I like coyotes close by, but the less green space we have, the more restricted those coyotes and other wild animals have. And now they're ending up in people's backyards. So, you know, if we take all that space away, we're now putting truly the community in danger of, you know, animals looking for pets for Scooby snacks. And we don't want that to happen. So that's my thoughts. Not sure if this is official or not, but Jim Jumun signing off.
Thank you. And I understand there's a lot of transportation issues that are being revised in Detroit itself. I don't know if you still follow that or not.
You know, they have revitalized Detroit over the last 10 years, and I'm proud to say I'm from Detroit. They've done a beautiful job in the infrastructure, the highways. They're rebuilding the inner city. You know, Ford Motor Company just took over the train station and made that an absolute masterpiece. It is a delight. If you haven't been to Detroit lately, it's safe relative to other big cities. We've got a great Detroit chief that is tough on crime. So yeah, I'm a Detroiter.
But you're not going back. I hope you're going to stay in Cape Coral.
Well, we've got a home there, so we will visit back and forth, and we've got 13 grandkids, so they're everywhere. Most of them in Michigan still, so I think we're obligated to go back every now and again.
You must have interesting Christmases.
We do. We do.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Is there anyone else in the public who'd like to speak at this time? This is your opportunity, folks. If you come on up, sir, and our clerk will swear you in. Good morning, sir. And before you speak, could you,
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Russ Averill. I also live in the Stonewater community. I don't have any prepared remarks. I was I think the correspondence that wrote in opposition. My opposition was based on the proposed possible plan of 178 units. That if that does happen, the diagram that was sent to us shows that community would be directly tied into our community. We have two entrances, two ways in and out for 327 homes. And if you added 178 more to those two entrances, it would be horrendous. So like everyone else, when we bought, we were told that was for future commercial development. Whether it's a pizza store or a doctor's office or whatever, that would be better than 178 single-family units. We have the bus garage just adjacent to between us and Mariner High School, where the buses come in and out every day, in addition to the other concerns. So that's why my opposition stands. Why it may not be townhomes, sounds to me like they're trying to get a blanket ruling so they can build just about anything they want. Could be this, could be something else. If they wanted to build homes that were consistent to ours, that would flow right into the community, that would be one thing. But 178 units would increase our community by half, more than half. And that would make a very congested area. And just to echo his comments about Detroit, we're Detroiters. My wife was born and raised, very proud. We go there too in the summertime. It's a great place to visit. We love Cape Coral. We've been here over a year. We got here just in time to experience the hurricane in our new home, which held up well.
I'm sorry.
So we've been told that we're official Floridians after having gone through that. So I feel like an official Floridian. My opposition, again, is even more so now that I understand it. This sounds like we just want to change it so that we could do a multitude of things in there. We don't know what it is, right? But it could be what was proposed, and I think everyone here is opposed to that, that have invested our future into that community. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for staying even after the hurricane. I know a lot of people left, so.
We're here to stay.
Excellent. All right. Anyone else? This is your chance, folks. If you want to speak, come on up. Oh, all right. Well, all right. I thought I coaxed one more. Come on up, ma'am, please. And the clerk will swear you in. Thank you.
raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Would you state your name, please, ma'am?
My name is Patty DiDio, and I'm a resident of Stonewater. And I would just like to agree with my fellow neighbors on everything that they stated, whereas if they do build townhomes there, the traffic is already bad pulling out on Nelson, and it will impact the beauty of the development with it all being just like woods over there. When we purchased, and the question was specifically asked to my sales rep, and we were told that was going to be undeveloped land. Now they're asking for carte blanche to build whatever they decide they're going to build down the road, whatever's going to be the most profitable. And I'm concerned on how that is going to impact my investment that I made in Cape Coral for my retirement home.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? All right. At this time, I'm going to close the public comment, bring it back to the applicant. Mr. Mazurkowitz, I saw you writing vigorously, so I suspect you have some thoughts to share with us. Thank you.
Joe Mazurkowitz again, President BGM Consulting on behalf of the applicant. I want to make a couple things very clear. Presently, we could build 178 townhouses over the top of office space. This is only allowing freestanding residential. Presently, we could build compound use on that site, which would be 178 townhouses and whatever office space underneath, or some other use underneath, a restaurant underneath, or whatever. So I want to get it clear that it is not an elimination. If this gets passed, it's not an elimination of the ability to do residential. It's just not to do freestanding residential. We'd have to do vertically integrated residential. The other thing I like to talk about, when we talk about traffic, a lot of people have a lot of understanding about traffic that they think is just common sense. Well, common sense in traffic planning doesn't work real well sometimes. The doctor's offices that they said would be much better are much worse for trips than attached single-family residential. Much, much worse for trips. It's one of the highest road impact fees associated in the city of Cape Coral for medical office space because of the trips necessary for that.
I understand what you're saying, and I've heard that in other hearings, but could you go a little bit more detail regarding the trips necessary for doctor's offices versus residential?
Medical office building is the highest road impact fee rate.
I understand, but
Road impact fee rate is driven by trips.
I understand that, but could you explain a little bit why that is the case?
Oh, why that is? Okay, well, a single-family house, a lot of times, let's just say it's, especially in a townhouse setting, where it's mostly young professionals that are using those. They go to work in the morning, they come home at night. The doctor's office, the doctor meets 4 people every hour at least. So there's 4 trips every hour, all day, where a single-family residential is 2.5, 2.3 trips a day. So that's the big difference in the number of trips coming and going. The other thing is talking about that this was green space, and taking away green space and having a negative impact on the environment. This was always meant to be developed. I apologize if somebody misspoke to one of the residents saying that's going to be, left as environmental land. This was always going to be and has the right to be developed. The only thing we're doing now, and I want everyone to understand, the only thing we're doing now, we're not increasing the density, we're not increasing the intensity. The only thing we're doing here is allowing freestanding residential. We could do it with a compound use right now.
Could you
So
explain?
that is the answer, and I believe that answers almost all the questions that were raised. The fact that a compound use is allowed under the present conditions, that clearly says we're not trying to come here and increase density or increase intensities. We could do the density and intensities under the existing. We're just looking at a different style of building, and the marketplace right now is looking for freestanding and townhouses, what they're looking for. So that's why we showed that. But we still don't have any plans right now. We have we're not talking to anybody to develop that. We wouldn't talk to anybody until we had this right granted us by this proposed change. So with that, Madam Hearing Examiner, unless you have additional questions, we would respectfully request a motion, you make a recommendation of approval of City Council.
Thank you. I do have an additional question.
Okay.
Could you explain in layman's terms what you're talking about with compound uses? I understand what you're saying, but I think it'd be helpful.
Compound uses, the building has to have multiple uses. In most cases, it's a building that we see in a more intense area where you have retail, office on the first or second floor maybe, and then you have multifamily up above.
And how many floors could you go up? I mean, hypothetically.
I don't really know.
Well, at least two, right?
Well, you could go to at least 4 or 5.
Okay.
You could go at least 4 or 5. I know you go 4. I think you probably go 5.
Well, let's say 4 to be safe.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I have no other questions. All right? Yes,
Your
sorry.
Honor, for the record, I don't know if you've asked the applicant if they agree with the conditions in the staff report, or if you haven't gotten to that point yet.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Mr. Mazurkowitz, you've incorporated the staff report. I'm assuming you incorporated the
I
conditions.
did with the, and thank you, Mr. Attorney. We do agree with the stipulations, and we also would like to incorporate the staff presentation to our.
I think you did that, but it's always good to have redundancies. I appreciate that, and thank you for that, all right? Mr. Heller, sorry, you're up. Any further comments?
I have no further comments. I thought Joe addressed the issues by the applicants, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, I asked Mr. Mazurkowitz about compound uses and a hypothetical regarding how high up, hypothetically, with a retail use. Do you agree with his analysis? It would be potentially at least four floors of residential above the retail use.
I am not very familiar with the height restrictions in neighborhood commercial. I was going to quickly try to look them up, but didn't have time. So yes, I can't give an exact estimate on any height restrictions. I would need a few minutes
But at least there would be an allowance of the residential above the, say, a pizza place or a doctor's office. Or,
yeah,
I don't know that I'd want to live above a pizza place, but that would be my preference.
smell like pizza all the time.
Okay, thank you very much. No other questions, all right? With those comments, Mr. Mazurkowitz, I did ask Mr. Heller some questions. Do you have anything? Okay, thank you. All right, with those comments, I am going to make a few comments and then close the hearing. My first comment is that what I do is a recommendation. This process is intended, I'm sorry, sir, we can't accept further input. I'm sorry. This process is intended to be a two-step process of when you have proposed change in zoning or proposed change in a PDP, and the reason, in conditions, excuse me. And the reason for that is to allow people 2 opportunities to come before a city official or city person to express their opinion. So my suggestion is that when it is advertised for the city council, you have another opportunity to speak, possibly not at the length that you can in front of the hearing examiner. That's up to the council and staff and other people. But thank you for coming today. I'm sure you all have busy lives. Whether you're retired, that doesn't matter. I understand retired people are more busy than people that work. So I really appreciate you coming today. I would urge you to go to the city council meeting because, as I said, the buck stops with them. They make the final decision. I do make a recommendation that will be provided to the applicant and to city staff. And if you do want to copy that recommendation, you can pursue how that would be acquired after our hearing today. And I did misspoke. This is not a rezoning. This is changing a PDP. So it's a little bit different than a traditional situation. So I will carefully consider everything that was said, both by the applicant and by staff and by you folks coming today, and by Mike and Chris Helm, who were apparently unable to attend today, before I make my recommendation. And I would urge you in the future, if there are other hearings that you want to attend, I would urge you to please come, because I do take public comment very seriously. So with those comments, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing. And the next item of business is the next date and time of our next hearing, Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024 at 9 a.m. here in council chambers. We stand adjourned at 10:03. Thank you, everyone.